Good morning, afternoon, or night, my fellow cakes, and welcome back to my channel, or to my channel. Today's video I'm very excited for. It's going over Darling in the Franxx. Now, to give you a little rundown, Darling in the Franxx is a 2018 anime that was created by Cloverworks, which I'm pretty sure is owned by like A1 Pictures and Aniplex, and also co-produced and animated by Trigger. Now, I'm personally a very big fan of Trigger, so when I finally heard about this show, which I heard about it late, I was super stoked for it because I like everything pretty much that they've pumped out. There used to be Ganex, which made Gurren Lagann, and when they moved over to become Trigger, they made another show called Kill La Kill, both of which are very popular shows. So, as always, expect spoilers, so if you haven't seen this show and you don't want to be spoiled, definitely watch it before you watch this. But if you want a brief rundown and, a couple of theories before you watch it, I'll do my best to give you the background. There's a lot to this show compared to my last video when I did the Dororo. Dororo, don't get me wrong, still had plot lines, but it was very episodic and pretty easy to explain. Now this show's got a lot going on, so I'm just going to start diving right into it. So, we're introduced to a future world where our Earth is completely barren, and it's like a complete desert, and there's these giant metal dome-like things that are like robots, I guess. I don't really know, but they're called plantations, and that's where all adults live, and humans in general. There is some foreshadowing in the first episode, but a lot of that, you don't really know what's going on until much later into the show. So the main cast is a group of teenagers. The specific two main characters of this show are called Hero and 02. Now, they all have to pilot these mechs called the franxx. Now, the only way you can pilot the franxx is in male or female pairs. So, they fight these creatures called the klaxosaurs, which are these giant kind of like dinosaur things that are all black with blue accents that sometimes light up or have like intricate patterns in it. Now, before I go any further into this, the way they control the mechs is just kind of weird. So, they have to only be able to do it in boy-girl pairs. So the girls, aka they're called pistols in the show, they have to be like on their hands and knees, and then the boys, the aka Stamen, is like the pilot of it. So they're sitting in a chair, and then there's these handles that come up off of kind of the girl's butt practically, and that's how he controls it. So it's very sexual looking, and I was like, wow, that's some obvious innuendos, but honestly, you get used to it, and because they don't focus on it in a sexual aspect like that, you quickly get over it. So, in order to make it work, you have to have a sync rate with your partner. Now, our main character, Hero, we learn right away off the bat, he can't sync with anybody. And his whole life is just to be a pilot of one of these mechs. So now he feels completely useless, like he has no purpose in his life. And we're also introduced to our other main character, 02. Now, she's been rumored to be a partner killer. After 3 rides, the pilot always ends up dying. Now, to sum up the first episode, they ended up with a chance encounter. She crashes where he is, and then he ends up going for a ride with her. They have their very first kiss, and he does it. He pilots, but he can't remember any of it. He blacks out during all of it. So that's pretty much the basic rundown of the first episode. Now, the other main cast members are pretty important to the show because this show is very character driven versus being like, action sequences. So I'll try to explain them. It's hard if you don't really have that visual aspect to them, but I'm going to try my best with it. So we have Jerome and Miku. Now, they're the kind of more childish out of the gang versus everybody else. But the mech that they pilot is like one of my favorite. It's like pink and white and has these cool like metal claws that come off of it, or magma claws. and they're like the fastest of the mechs, so I like their mechs design. Their characters are okay, I guess. I have an issue with Zerome, which I'll try to get to later. So next after that, I'll go over Ichigo and Goro. Now, this is where some of that character-driven stuff that I was speaking of earlier comes into play, because a whole, like, love triangle or square, I don't really know how to describe it, ends up happening, where Zero Two and Hiro obviously love each other, but Ichigo loves Hiro, but then Goro loves Ichigo, and so you get a lot of conflict with that going on. But overall, Ichigo is the team's main leader, and Goro's a character that I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought they did well with him. So then we also have Futoshi, probably saying it wrong, and Ikuno. He used to ride with Kokoro, but Kokoro decided to go with Mitsuru instead. Or Mitsuru. Probably Mitsuru. Anyway, so now he's with Ikuno. And then Kokoro ended up leaving Futoshi to be partners with Mitsuru, and Ikuno, obviously, you know, they traded places. So, after this, we get lots of character building and lots of world building. You kind of learn about, you know, how they don't know much about anything in life. They don't know what a kiss is, or anything besides really fighting and getting food. So, their world is ruled by a group called Ape, who is the very headmaster of it, is someone called Papa. So, long story short, and mind you, they tell you this way later in the show, but I'm trying to give, you know, all the background to how we are at this point. So, they ended up being a group of scientists that kind of took over the world, and they found that magma energy was a great resource, and it evolved humans with technology beyond our wildest dreams. And eventually they used magma energy to figure out immortality for humans. But one of the side effects of having immortalities as a human is you lose your ability to reproduce. But, you know, majority of humans choose it anyway. And then they also place a heavy burden on childbirth, like a heavy tax. So, you know, people aren't dying, so the world doesn't become overpopulated. So now nobody's having kids, and then these beings called the Calaxosaurs end up coming out of the ground. Those giant dinosaur things I was talking about earlier. So they're attracted to magma energy, and since we're sucking it all up, they decide, you know, they're going to start attacking us because they want it too. And we don't really have any way to defend ourselves. Things are hard to kill. So then eventually the franxx, the mechs, are created by Dr. Franxx, who is like a leading scientist that was hired by them. Now, when he first comes up with the system, you find out that if you're not in a boy-girl pair, you lose control and end up killing his wife. And so then he figures out you need to have your reproductive system, and you need to be boy-girl pairs. That way all the burden of controlling the mech isn't just on the stamen, or no, not stamen, pistol, sorry. Because it'd be way too much strain on her. So, let's see, sorry, just looking at my notes. So, they focus on a lot of character building, like I've said multiple times now, but there's also some really cool fights between them and mechs against the Calaxosaurs. Specifically, you know, the main characters, Hiro and Zero Two, always end up, like, kicking ass. Hiro survives the 3 rides, and then, becomes her, like, official partner, which is cool, and you kind of see them develop a relationship, and then you get to see it kind of crumble for a while. And then you get to see it be rebuilded again. And it's really cute how their whole relationship is. I personally loved it, and I'm not usually a sucker for romance. But they did it very well, along with the whole coming of age. Now, most other children have numerical codes. For example, Hiro is 016. And 02 is supposed to be 002. But Hero ended up naming all of his friends when he was like, a short little kid. And, so that's why they all have names. And at first we're told, Zero Two is just called 02, but you find out that they actually met when they were little kids themselves, and he gave her the name 02. So the children also are wondering, when do you get to retire from doing this? How many do you gotta kill? Or how many years you gotta do this until you get to be an adult? Which, unsurprisingly, is never. You just fight until you die. So, obviously the children are distraught about that, but they keep on doing it because that's all they know. Zero and Hero 2 find out that their memories are erased when they were little, so that's why it took them a bunch of episodes to end up, figuring out that, they loved each other already. So they figured that out, and some of the love triangles ended up getting resolved. You find out Ikuno actually likes girls, which, was a really cool thing to see come up, but then they quickly cast that aside, which kind of sucked. It sucked really bad because they had a good opportunity with it, but they just didn't go anywhere with it. Let's see. So, it's kind of just character building and then episodic fights that don't really mean too much. They're just, dwindling down those Klaxosaurs more and more. There's a couple fun episodes where, they separate the house that they all live in for the boys' side and the girls' side. And then, 02 doesn't care about stuff like that. So it's really fun. And that's an episode I enjoyed watching. So at some point, they finally go to kill the lead Klaxosaur leader, the Klaxosaur princess, who is actually a Klaxosapien. So she's more of a person than she is a giant dinosaur monster thing. And around this time, we also figure out that 02 is actually a clone of her, the Klaxosaur princess. And that's why she has horns and she has fangs. And that's why she's so hard to to ride with. And that's why her code number is 002. Because I'm pretty sure the princess's code number would be 001. Her sync rate is the best it can be. So we find out about that, but 02 is still I'm just glad to be alive and met the person, the love of my life. So Papa eventually comes up with a thing saying that he'll free them if they defeat her. And so they, get captured by her, Hero does, and then she connects to this gigantic, even bigger mech, and then it turns out it was, rigged by Ape and Papa. And then all of a sudden in the show, I'm going to just kind of go off the script for a little while here. So, this is where the show ends up taking a really weird turn, and where a lot of people say where the show ended up failing completely is all of a sudden out of nowhere, besides a very slight foreshadowing, which I only was able to notice because I've watched the show 2 times now, so the second time around, I was able to kind of notice that at least it wasn't completely random. But yeah, out of nowhere, you find out that Papa and a few members of Ape are actually these aliens called Verm. Now, Verm is a hive mind alien, all one collective consciousness. And they want humans to cast aside their shells and join their consciousness, which I think creates more power for them or something. We don't really know. We're not really told. But it just felt like a cheap cop-out to me, and it felt like they were trying to just kind of copy Gurren Lagann. If you haven't seen Gurren Lagann, you should have seen Gurren Lagann by now. If you haven't, it's been out since 2007. A lot of people would argue it's better than this show. That's all personal preference. Gurren Lagann has a very special place in my heart. So it is probably higher than this show, but nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed this show as well. But they shouldn't have tried to copy Gurren Lagann with a collective mind, a random alien. It didn't feel right in this show that was so developed with your characters, and you've had this conflict for multiple episodes of them against Ape and Papa, and just at this point they wanted to be free, which they were promised. And the show, I will post the Reddit itself that I'm about to be talking about a little bit down below so that you can check it out. They go into way more detail than I can, but I'm going to do my best to kind of go over it, or what I got from it is a fan theory that would have worked dramatically better than the whole Verm thing that happened, is a rebellion arc. A rebellion arc would have been perfect because you've had that conflict, you've had that build up with those characters. And watching them fight against Ape, you get to keep Ape as human scientists that are just corrupt, which works. You don't need to make them aliens, they're already evil, we get it. And having an evil scientist, I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit more refreshing than the tired old alien cop-out plot. There's plenty of ways they could have gone along with it. They could have had them capture Zero Two or Hero. I think it would work well if they captured Zero Two personally, because Zero Two at first was ostracized by the rest of her teammates. So at this point in the show, all of her teammates love and accept her finally, which is super dope as fuck. So, have them all go and try to save her. It would have been really cool. And then we were also introduced to a group of franxx riders called the Nines. Now, the Nines are clones of Zero Two. So, they have very high sync rates. They're, pretty badass themselves. I'm guessing they're all around rank 9 because they're called the Nines. Anyway, so they always worked exclusively with Papa during the show. So, they, you had a good villain to watch some frank on frank fight, which would have been cool. And especially how they could have explored, in this show, there's multiple parts where it's pointed out that our team that we watch, they all have different franxx. You have the one that's Zero Two in Hero Ride, which has like a spear and is the best one in general. And then Ichigo and Goro, they have a cool one that has like a piece of like hair, I guess. I think she has like a pair of swords. She's pretty cool. Then I talked about Jerome and Miku's, which was the big claws. Futoshi and Ikuno's was the machine gun. And then Kokoro and Mitsuro's was the one with it has a giant cannon. So they're all pretty cool, and I really like the mech designs in this show in general. I like how they have faces. It's huge. I'm pretty sure like the female's face too, specifically because she's syncing up with a thing. So it looks really cool, and I enjoyed the design a lot of the mechs. And it was focused on about how their team is all different versus every other team. We're introduced to another team at some point, not the Nines or our main cast, which is Squad 13. But some other squad, and they all use the same like spear with like a rope thing. So they were shocked to see them and how well their team actually worked being different. So this could have been a good time for them to explore on that even more so while fighting the Nines. I don't even know if that was said in the Reddit. It probably was because like I said, they went in detail. But I'm going off of the top of my head here of kind of building on what I've read. Which again, they could have said. I don't fully remember the whole article. But I digress. It would have been really cool to see that go on. They had it all set up well. And so, but what we were given could have worked too. If they had more time for it. The whole space battle thing, yeah, it was tired. But if they had like maybe 5 or even 10 more episodes, they could have really gone into it, made more of, building for it, and, histories of the Klaxosaurs versus Verm, because apparently that happened millions of years ago. You find out the Klaxosaurs weren't really the bad guys. And, then all of a sudden, the show takes even a weirder turn. Like, Zero Two ends up physically or mentally, whatever, connecting to this giant franxx called the A-Path, and goes off into space. But her body's still on Earth, but her horns disintegrate, and she's just completely vacant. And then they bring Hero up to space, and he ends up fighting in space and then connecting with her. And then when he connects with her, mind you, her body's still on Earth, but he connects with her because her consciousness is in the ship. All of a sudden, the ship gains her face, and it was just weird. But there was some positives to it. So now Hero's like, permanently attached with her, and he's like, hey guys, I'm probably not coming back. I'm gonna go kill these alien motherfuckers. And then people are like, oh, well, we'll wait for you. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I don't care. And, no, not really, but... So he ends up going into space with her, and then I think for like 2 years straight, they're just fighting, but they love it because they're so deeply connected, and in a weird way, like they're fusing kind of into one. And I thought it was cute in its own odd way. Like, I don't know, to be like that physically and spiritually connected to another individual is really pretty sounding in its own way. So, even though I didn't like the fact that she became a robot ship thing, at least there was some benefits to it. And also throughout the show, we see Hero ends up becoming more like her, gaining horns and sharper teeth because of riding with her. And then at this point, eventually Sammy fully has like these horns like her and like sharp teeth. And they find Verm, they throw a bomb into him and blow them the fuck up. But then they die, but they release a whole bunch of souls that Verm's captured before, and they're holding hands, spinning down, and they're like, oh, we're going to be reincarnated. And then throughout this whole time while that's going on, now the friends are adjusting to life since Ape's over and done with. All the other children, which are called parasites, are like free, and now like they're trying to fix the land. The Klaxosaurs go back into the earth eventually and make the land prosper. But they're all just kind of waiting there for Hero and Zero Two to show up, which they never do until I think 100 years later. It says, where it shows like a little girl with pink hair and she like, trips or something, and they like meet each other, and she's like, oh, what's your name? And he's like, oh, my name is, and then the show cuts off, which I was like, no, why isn't there more of this? So the ending was disappointing, but it had some really bittersweet moments to it. Again, I think the Rebellion arc would have been a better route for them to go, or they could have just ended it with defeating the princess. But the whole alien thing just feels overdone. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of Gurren Lagann or Kill La Kill. And it fits even less than Gurren Lagann and even more less than Kill La Kill. Which Kill La Kill's was hardly holding on. Gurren Lagann's, it made sense actually, in my opinion. So I don't know why they decided to do it. But, like I said, there were some good moments in it. So, I can't say that I completely hate it like everybody else I've read. It's like, it's horrible, it's not even worth the show. No, it was still good. It was rushed. It should have been fleshed out more. But maybe if you fill in some of the gaps yourself, you can kind of imagine how that whole 2-year war was going. At least that's what I did. Yeah, and there's a manga that's running alongside of it right now. I think it, was running alongside of it. The show's been done since 2018, but the manga's still running. I've wanted to look into it, but I've read it's Ichi or something like that, which I'm pretty sure is very lewd in content. So it kind of turned me off from wanting to look at it, but I still do because, I'm very emotionally attached to these characters. And like I said way earlier, I'm not normally a sucker for romance type of stories, but this one I thought was done really well. So, I think that's about it that I'm going to talk about Darling in the franxx today. Please let me know if you like this video, and if you have any more questions, maybe I could go deeper into elaborating on this. Let me know down below here so that I can figure out what I'm doing for you guys. And as always, please like and subscribe this video. If you subscribe to my channel, then you get to be part of Cakegang, and then you're an official cake. So we're the sweetest channel on YouTube that's not about food. So come join Cakegang and let's take over this planet. And 1 like equals 1 pool of molten rock used to live forever. Because that totally makes sense. Oh, and one last thing. Sorry, guys. This Thursday, I'm going to be posting another video because Studio Trigger's first feature-length film, Prom Air, is airing. And where I live, it only airs on Thursday. So I'm going to go watch this on Thursday. And when I get home, I'm going to make a review reaction type video to it. And I'm really excited for this. You know, as I said earlier, I love Studio Trigger, and getting to see it in theaters is going to be so much fun. And I hope I get to be, you know, one of the early people to get to review it. So yeah, check back in on Thursday. And next Tuesday, I'll be doing that Brightburn movie that I talked about in my Dororo video. Again, Brightburn's about like an evil superhero twist. So yeah, it's a really good movie. And I can't wait to talk about that one too. Any suggestions you have, like I said, leave comments down below. Also, if you leave a comment letting me know you subscribed, I'll shout you out on my next channel, or I mean on my next video, sorry. And I also apologize for not doing one this week. I thought every time someone would subscribe that I would see, you know, who they are, but that's not really how it works on here, I guess. So I didn't really know who to pick. So I'm sorry again for not picking one, but promise I will next week. Still no video editing, so it'll probably be on a piece of paper I'm going to hold up here. But either way, it'll be fun. So yeah, all my links for, like, you know, the Reddit page that I mentioned earlier, it's going to be down below. Join the Facebook group, Cakegang, you know, why not? Show your love for Cakegang. I have a Tumblr that I'm going to put down there, and a Patreon, or Patron. Yeah, so they'll all be down there. Click it. Later, cakes!